What's up, everybody? Alright, so I've been watching a couple of videos about a YouTuber who, and I don't really like to talk about other YouTubers that much on this channel, but I figure I kind of need to talk about this one because it's been on my mind for a while. Alright, and that individual is DarksydePhil, DSP. I've watched a couple of videos and I listened to like a podcast about him today, and I figure I'm going to use this video to say my piece, and it may go pretty long because I'm going to be talking about concepts and stuff too that DSP exhibits that I feel like have become like almost trends in the Western world, especially the developed Western world. But that's just hearsay, just my opinion, really. Alright, so, okay. And I'm going to probably break this down into segments too to make it a little bit more manageable. Alright. What I'll do is this will be like four like parts. Like first will be DSP's history, then my history as a fan of DSP and how he went from me respecting him and liking him to me just liking him and not respecting him, for him both losing my adoration and my respect. Because that's exactly how it happened for me, and I would argue for others too who were legitimate fans of his before he started doing dumb shit. And the third part is going to be about how he made these stupid and good decisions that he made over the years. And the final part is going to be me about like very much like my own kind of epiphany about DSP and stuff like that, and also a challenge that I've issued to myself to not be like DSP. All right, so let's start with the history of DSP. Okay, he first started doing video game stuff in 2008, very late 2008. This is before LPs really became a big hit on YouTube. And if they were a big hit, it was mostly like guided LPs, like not blind ones like DSP was doing. So if you watched an LP before, we'll say 2011, 2010, it was mostly like a video walkthrough almost. Video walkthroughs actually are not really new. A lot of them were pre-recorded, but a lot of the ones they were actually VHSs that I used to rent from Blockbuster that had walkthroughs of games. Like this is how you get past this area and stuff like that. And it was pre-taped and someone was talking over the footage, that kind of shit. But it was not new, like everyone likes to say. There's a game theorist, I'm pretty sure. There's a game theorist video about that. I'm not going to ramble too much on about that. But DSP was one of the pioneers of blind LPs. Not guided ones, but blind ones. Okay? At the time, I was subscribed to four other LPers. H.C. Bailey, Chuga Conroy, Nintendo Capri Sun, and I think it was Slow Beef. Yeah, and Slow Beef. I would consider those four to be like the Mount Rushmore of LPs. Okay, these are four dudes who you could easily see yourself hanging out with off camera, and you could be like, yeah, I'm down to hang out with all those guys. You know what I mean? And when I first discovered DSP in 2010, when I watched he did a blind playthrough of the After Years, Final Fantasy IV: The After Years, a game that I just downloaded to my Wii, and I really wanted to watch an LP of. I couldn't find any guided ones, but I found DSP's blind one, and it was kind of funny. And like seeing him get beaten down by some of the later enemies of the game was actually quite funny. His reactions were pretty hilarious. So I went ahead and subscribed to him. I said, "Hey, this guy's pretty cool." And shortly after his playthrough of the After Years, he lost his job, and then he decided to see if he could become a machinima partner, and he kind of had his reservations about machinima, but then he said, "Hey, you know what? Let's see if this works." And for a long time, it did work. And different than most other LPers, he used a camera to record his stuff. At the time in the late 2000s, it was actually a brilliant move because game capture devices before, we'll say 2011, 2012, they did not record not easy to record off of them at all. It was, and you had to record the thing from the capture device, and then you had to record like a voiceover kind of. That's if you're using the game console itself. Everyone else, most other LPers, especially the Mount Rushmore ones that I mentioned before, they used emulators most of the time. And most of them played classic games. DSP was one of the first who would play new games that just came out, and he would use his camera, and that made him a big hit. People said, "Wow, this is unprecedented. No one's done this before." So that's another thing that attracted me to DSP was he was willing to just think outside the box. He was willing to say, "Hey, you know what? Screw the capture shit. When it gets better, I'll use it. I'm using my camera for now." And he did that until 2013. 2013, I'll never forget it. I was watching. He would do classic game playthroughs of stuff that came out years before, and he would run through it. And he did that with a playthrough of a Bully for the PS2. I remember he went from camera to capture like pretty much overnight. I remember watching a couple parts of it, and then all of a sudden he wasn't using his camera anymore. I'm like, cool, awesome, you know. And then he moved in 2014, moved away from his buddies, John Rambo and Howard, who helped him create a series called Project 7, which I'm going to get to in a bit. And he moved in with his girlfriend, who he met in 2012, from Connecticut to Seattle, or to Washington State. And he says that it's way less expensive to live in Washington State than it is in Connecticut. I will agree with him on that one. Connecticut is not a good place to live. That place is a hotbed for corporatism and other horrible secondary effects of capitalism. Not primary effects, but secondary ones. So the fact that that was, in my opinion, a good decision he made. What wasn't a good decision, and then okay, and well, let me continue the history. And from then, he's been pretty much been doing the same thing. He hasn't been branching out much. It's just gameplay through here, some lots of vlogging, which I guess is kind of cool. Travel vlogging. He'll go on vacation and do like little sightseeing stuff and record that. Which to be real honest, those are some of my favorite videos of his in the last 5 or so years. You know, just him recording random shit that he sees in vacation sites with his girlfriend or whatever. I don't even know what they are, and that's really cool of him to do that. You know what I mean? I'm gonna be really objective here. A lot of the stuff that DSP does is stuff I wish I was doing. You know what I mean? The traveling he does and stuff like that. It's pretty cool stuff. You know what I mean? Not like everyone does it, but whatever. It's cool. Okay, so that's his history. My history as a fan, like I said, when I first started watching him, I thought it was genius. This guy plays completely brand new games. No one else that I've subscribed to in the LP community was doing that. None that I know of, anyways. H.C. Bailey kind of did that with Final Fantasy 13, but that came out like 2 years. His LP of it was 2 years after it came out, so or a year after it came out. So what gives? You know what I mean? So yeah, that's what drew me to him in the first place. And then when he did Project 7, I'm like, holy shit, that's really cool. I think I could, I wish I could do something like that. You know what I mean? And even when he went to Twitch, and when he started uploading his whole streams on YouTube and not just a whole bunch of videos, he would be like, okay, here's my entire 3-hour stream of GTA 5. I think he started doing that, and that was really cool. I'm like, great, awesome. Here's what turned me off. Here's what got me from liking him and respecting him to me just liking him and not respecting him. when he talked about views on his videos, in his Q&As, in his weekend previews, in his pre-streams. He would do a pre-stream thing where he would just ramble for 20 minutes like I'm doing now. He never talked about that. And that's annoying because when you watch something on YouTube, you want to watch it to get away from stuff, not to add to your own personal drama. That's why I could never get behind, YouTubers who like to talk about YouTube drama, because it's like, what are you doing? You're making things worse. Like, don't do that. But I still liked what he put out. I still loved the fact that he put out full line streams. You know, some of his commentary was pretty funny. A lot of it sucked, but some of it was pretty good. He would do brand new games that I was considering getting. He did a playthrough of Zelda Majora's Mask for 3DS, and I was like, wow, really? Awesome. Let me see if it's any better than the original, and it kind of was, and it's cool, And then he started getting into crowdfunding and Patreon. I think he has a Kickstarter too, but I'm not really sure. But he definitely has a Patreon. And I remember when he fought the temptation valiantly to get on Patreon, to make his own Patreon. And I really wish that he had not done that, had he not followed through with getting on Patreon, because right out of the gate I knew it was going to be like completely mismanaged. I knew it wasn't going to be organic, because I'm extremely cynical when it comes to crowdfunding, okay? Whether it's Kickstarter or Patreon, okay? To me, that's a form of electronic begging. That's literally all it is. It's like, give me money so I can promise you something. To me, that should be illegal. It should not be legal. Or it should have like a really strict cap. Like the most you can get is like $1 million or something like that. Because great example of crowdfunding gone wrong, Mighty Number 9. That game, holy shit. It got so much money poured into it by fans who wanted a game like it, and guess what? It fell fucking flat on its ass. And DSP did something similar when he said he wanted to reboot Project 7. And I said, okay, great, awesome. Can't wait. He said he showed everybody a green room. I forget what video it was. They showed us that. They showed viewers that, but whatever, I don't remember. I do remember a video where he said that he was going to abandon Project 7, and I don't care if he got $1 or $100,000,000,000. If someone gives you money and you promise to give them something back, like make a game or make a TV series or make something like that, or even make a video, then by God, you better deliver something, okay? When I found that out, not only did I not respect him anymore, but now I didn't like him anymore. And it's funny, because when DSP was talking about Project 7, he said that it was originally, before it became a thing with him, Rambo, and Howard, it was going to be a playthrough of him of Final Fantasy VII, where he just makes fun of the game, whatever. I would have been happy with that. I really would have been happy with that. Even if he took a whole bunch of money from his viewers, if he had said, hey, okay, here's what you guys paid for, I know it's not much, but I'm going to try and make this as entertaining as possible, and I'm going to give you all shout-outs during this playthrough. Here's me playing Final Fantasy VII. If he had done that, I wouldn't be making this video. I'd be watching him still. Because that's part of my value map, is if you promise something, you should deliver. If you promise something and someone has expectations, and there are expectations involved. I've promised things on my channel that I haven't followed up on, but guess what? Do people really have expectations for me? Are they really? How many times have I asked anybody for money on this website? In fact, even better, how many ads has anyone seen on my videos? Has anyone seen any ads? I haven't placed any ads. That's going to change next year. Hate to say it, because I know the way of the future of making money now. It's not working for the man. But guess what? I've never done anything of the sort. DSP did, and he didn't deliver, did he? All he had to do was just make that Final Fantasy VII playthrough. I even commented on it. I said, "Yo, this is dumb. This could have totally been avoided. All he had to do was do what you intended to do originally with Project 7, which is play Final Fantasy 7. I wouldn't have cared. It would have been a very entertaining playthrough. You want to know why? Because Final Fantasy 6 of his, that was a very entertaining playthrough that he did. He had voices for everybody. It was hilarious. His playthroughs of Phoenix Wright are like fucking are I've laughed like on minutes on end at his Phoenix Wright playthroughs because he knows how to do that kind of stuff. He knows how to be a performer in some aspects. So then, and that's when I decided to openly dislike DSP. And it sucks because here's a person who, when he started doing his machinima stuff in 2011, I was extremely depressed, and those videos, I was looking forward to those videos every day. You know what I mean? I'm like, wow, let's see what DSP has now. You know, let's see what's in his new Q&A. Let's see what he's talking about. Let's see what his next review is. That kind of stuff. I was invested emotionally, and then he just lost. He failed me, and it's heartbreaking. You know. So now DSP wastes all of his time. He did a video. It was like an hour and a half. All the videos I'm talking about are going to be in the description. Hour and a half video about his business. He's like, oh, my business is failing, so send me money. Is very much the main idea and the only idea of that entire hour and a half video. I watched it because I needed to get some sleep, and it was a great bedtime story, as most of his videos are. Even his Q&A stuff is pretty cool. You know what I mean? But god damn it, man. You know, it's funny because I didn't think that DSP took himself that seriously at first. You know what I mean? Because when I first started watching him, I'm like, yo, I could hang out with this dude. I could hang out with this dude, and I think like in real life or outside of the internet, I could hang out with this guy, and it would be pretty cool. You know what I mean? Especially when he did his little playthroughs with Rambo. Those are some of the funniest things you'll ever find on the internet because it was organic. It came from the heart. It came from the soul. You know what I mean? But now, Jesus, it's literally become a job of his. And when you're bored with something to where it becomes a very menial, predictable thing, predictable way of life, you don't have there's no curiosity. You tend to become narcissistic to self-entertain. Okay, this is why I enjoy my job so much because there's always a new chick I can flirt with. There's always a new homeless guy that I have to there's always a new homeless dude that I have to fucking get on their case. New shit's always happening at my job. That I'm never not entertained at my job. I'm never not entertained when I write about stuff. I'm never not entertained when I watch speedruns or play speedruns. I'm never not entertained when I go bowling at a tournament and we see a 13-year-old kid beat everybody. You know what I mean? Like, those are things that DSP is missing out on. And it's sad because he had that, okay? Look, one of the reasons I originally respected DSP was because he was part of the fighting game community. So he did fighting game tournaments and stuff. Awesome, excellent idea, great. And I was able to see that when he first started talking about how he was going to do YouTube videos for a living. You could tell in his body language that he had the competitive spirit in him. And somewhere along the line, in within 5 years, 6 years, he lost that. He lost his will to compete. And guess what? When people say, "Oh, his business is sinking," uh, although that might be the case, he's still going to be making money off YouTube. Because guess what? How many videos does he have on his channel? Several, tens of thousands of videos that he's made. So if he's going to spam all those videos, bet your ass someone is watching them right now. More than a few. Probably a few thousand. Probably a few thousand. All those views pay him. You know what I mean? Even if it's like half a penny per view. You know what I mean? Or 10% of a penny per view. Quarter penny. Doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Though that was one of the good decisions that he made. Is that he knew that he needed to constantly keep producing stuff. Yes, it's oversaturating, but guess what? That's how things naturally are with groundbreaking shit. I mean, look, I got into I got into I got into pickup stuff, 11 years ago, and now that shit's blown up. It's become a fucking social movement now. It was never like this a decade ago. You never heard dating coaches go, "Oh, women are out to ruin masculinity." No, you never heard about that a decade ago because it became oversaturated. Now DSP hasn't done anything new with his brand. It's not really a business; it's a brand. Okay, his brand is still blind LPs, review stuff, and be objective, which is great. That's okay. You know what I mean? That can stay. His DSP tries it where he tries fast food. He used to do things where he would cook stuff. That was actually really cool. I don't know why he didn't continue doing it, but whatever. So it is what it is, you know. And it's like I said, when you get bored, you seek drama for drama's sake, and DSP does that by acting like a victim. If you really think that he's not doing this intentionally, then by God, you're more you're more naive. You're too naive. You're naive to the point where I wish I was you. You know what I mean? Yeah. Also, there's certain people who they have the they have the sense to make their own business. In fact, there's a dude who I know shops at my job. I'm looking at his card. I'm looking at his card right now. He runs a cyber cafe, and it's very well organized. The prices are extremely competitive, and it's not a living that he's making yet. He still has a 9 to 5 job, but this is something that he does supplementary until it pays him back later. Really good businessmen, really good people who are really successful at business. I've read this from business blogs, and I'm believing it more and more and more. They don't do stuff that pays them immediately. They do stuff that pays them in the future. They do stuff that, yeah, they're doing it for free now, but in the future, the money's going to come to them. There's a story about this guy who sold cars. He would do all kinds of research on the competition, and he wouldn't create rapport. He would go at the lot and he would just chill. He would just hang out, whatever. And then he would go to the competition. He would give people who would buy cars, and he would give them their card. He'd be like, "Yo, here's my card. I'm glad you bought this. I'm glad you bought from these guys. Um, I want to be like a buddy of yours, whatever. And if you have something that and I know mechanics who service this brand car, this make and model of car, who can get you better rates than anyone else. So if you need some work done, hit me up. and they would buy cars from him, from his company. You know, so it takes a certain amount of acumen for that. Admittedly, I don't know if I have that sense. I don't know if I have that acumen. We're gonna find out, and I'm gonna make a similar announcement in a video tomorrow about this. But yeah, I'm gonna start to take my blogs a lot more seriously. I'm gonna start to take YouTube stuff a lot more seriously because I feel like I have something to offer. That's what the Joseph way is gonna be about, and it's gonna have two. I'm gonna talk about it later. I'm not gonna talk about it now, but it's gonna be way more. It's gonna involve a lot more branching out than DSP. It really is, because that's what happened with DSP. He became stale. He became bored, and when he became bored, he decided to act like a victim and be narcissistic. I would say unintentionally, just because he got bored, and he did it for just for that sake. So yeah, and it's a tragedy. It's a tragedy. Um, yeah, there's a few videos where I talk about this. I actually posted a comment on on his latest DSP tries it. I'm gonna post that in the description. Uh, there's a pretty cool podcast about him that I sat through. I'll post that in the description uh, as well as the video where he talks about abandoning Project 7. That one's important. You should watch that one. All right, I'm out of here. I will catch you all later. Peace.